Now, I've been preparing to go back to the Canadian Arctic, and with that, I've been studying everything I can on Wim Hof and his breathing techniques. And the reason why is Wim Hof hiked Everest in his shorts, and he's of course the master of ice baths. And one thing to taking ice baths is the breathing exercises that come before it. He's also been hooked up to all kinds of electronics and studied by scientists, where he basically achieved superhuman feats. He didn't get frostbite. He didn't freeze to death, and he was able to keep his body at 98 degrees, more or less, in a situation where he should be going into hypothermia. And, this is all done through his breathing exercises. So I also started doing breathing exercises and getting into, doing everything I can to study how Wim Hof is generating this body heat while he's in cold conditions. One of the breathing exercises that generates heat in your body is called breath of fire. So I've been doing various, like I said, breathing exercises. This is one of them here. Breathe with Sandy.
Today we will be doing two different breathing techniques. The first one is the Wim Hof breath, which we have been doing in the previous videos. The second breathing technique is known as the breath of fire, and you might experience some heat from this breath, hence the name, and that's completely normal. It's a powerful belly exhale and a passive inhale, like a dog panting. But we will be doing the panting through the nose. The inhale will come naturally after the powerful exhale, and you can place your hand on your stomach to feel the belly moving in on the exhale and passively moving back out on the inhale, like this.
And these breathing exercises are not only going to help for the Arctic, but they're also good for the heart, the nervous system, the immune system. Breathing can either be something that you put no effort into at all, and it just happens passively, and that breath generally just uses a real shallow, kind of the upper portion of the lungs. Or you can breathe intentionally and exercise. So it seems like this is the key element which has allowed Wim Hof to generate extra body heat, and that's why I've been studying it. And funnily enough, it's woven in perfectly with the Bible study that I've done on the pineal gland, and now it's connecting into the Kundalini and a Bible study kind of surrounding the verse from John 3:14 that says, "And as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so the Son of Man be lifted up." And verses like this have been confusing to me, because it doesn't, is a serpent, why does the Son of Man need to be lifted up like a serpent? Previously on my channel, I've done a Bible study on the pineal gland, and this is more or less a continuation of that. And it also includes information from the Reptilian Nephilim Bible study that I've done, which is right here. So kind of for some more source material and then the Bible studies that I've done, which has led me to this point, this is one of them, as well as the Bible study on the pineal gland. Now, I'm strongly anti-Masonic. Freemasonry is the satanic church. I've got some anti-Masonic stickers right here that are ready to be slapped on the nearest police car or Masonic temple I come across. So I'm inherently opposed to anything surrounding the third eye and the occult, things of this manner. I grew up in the Christian church. I was homeschooled because the public school teaches things that are sinful, like evolution and the Big Bang. So because of that, my parents homeschooled me, and we believed we are Bible believing Christians, and I was raised my entire life in the Christian church. This isn't me, of course, but I've even done Bible quizzing like this, where you have to memorize the Bible word for word, and you win or lose tournaments based on how perfectly you can recite biblical verses word for word. So naturally, when slaying in the spirit was kind of a big thing, I don't remember when, in the 90s sometime, and I was earnestly and honestly seeking God, and I wanted so bad to be slain in the spirit and to feel that spirit of God overwhelm me to the point that it knocks me down, takes you off your feet. And I'd gone to all these. Well, my dad was the lead pastor of a pretty large church, so him and all the other ushers were responsible for catching these people when they fell down. So I always went to church way early, hours before it started, and I stayed hours afterwards. The church was kind of a replacement for me instead of public school. For me to be around other kids my age, it only happened at the church. So, anyways, I wanted this slaying in the spirit experience so bad. And to make a long story short, it never happened. And I said to God, please, and it never happened. Finally, a popular pastor come into town, Mario Murillo, and he was just going down the line. Everyone was falling down, to the left of me, and he got to me, and every single person fell down. Finally, he got to me. I said, "This is it. This is the power of God's going to overcome me." And he put my hand, prayed for me. Nothing happened. Pushed me. Finally, he pushed me on my forehead, pushed me back. And I put my foot back and caught myself. And I said, that's not the power of God overcoming me. You just pushed me down. So he started getting frustrated because he started, he was kind of looking bad because everybody else just fell right over. And he got to me and it wasn't happening. I was holding up the show. So he pushed me again. And this time the usher behind me had his foot right behind me. So when I stepped back, I caught my foot. And so I did. So then I tripped backwards, and they set me on the ground, and I just looked left to right, like, what is this? Immediately stood up, walked out of the church, and to be honest, I basically haven't been back to a church since then. So in my spiritual quest for God, at least surrounding the organized and accepted Christian church, my search for fulfillment spiritually has come up null and void from the Christian church, and I can see in my grandfather's life, and some more of the Christian elders in my life who are supposed to be people that I look up to. They have completely abandoned their faith and more or less turned to a life of sin and a life of fulfilling the flesh. So that has made me question why, if the modern Christian church is the true path to God, why these people who have spent their entire life in it, why are they turning their back on it in their old age? And in that sense, I haven't found, of course, any answers from the church, and you shouldn't turn to the church for answers. You should turn to God. And that's what I've done ever since this whole being pushed over and me looking to the left and seeing all these people that just got pushed over, and not a one of them is standing up to say, hey, like Mario just pushed me over, guys. I didn't, I wasn't completely overcome by the Spirit of God to the point where I fell on the ground and I couldn't stand back up, because I've never experienced that. And from what I can see, more or less the majority of that was happening in the 90s must have been hoaxes. So my quest for finding God and for finding true spiritual enlightenment from the Christian church, that I can't find it there. So that's why I've turned elsewhere than the Christian church for answers, and I've decided that seeking God earnestly in my heart, and not relying on another man to lead me has been at least the correct path for me. Now in this video, we're going to get into topics like the pineal gland and the Kundalini. And when you see an image like this one right here, it's, you're probably, as a Christian, driven away from it. So if you have found, complete truth, and, you feel that in your heart that you honestly are fulfilled spiritually through the Christian church, then there's no need to watch this video. I don't want to become a wedge between you and your current faith as you believe in Jesus Christ. From what I have come to understand from the Bible, it doesn't align exactly with the teachings of the Christian church. So, again, if the Christian church is the correct path for you, then I advise you to stop watching this video now and continue down that path. I also want to mention that if you've been into things like DMT and psychedelic trips, and your motivation here is to find the next best trip, the next best experience, because maybe a DMT trip didn't last long enough, or you just want maybe something bigger and better than that, a better experience, you're also at the wrong place. This is not at all about seeking some kind of psychedelic experience and looking for something more and more in that regards. In fact, we'll discuss how drugs are completely negative in regards to seeking true and honest spiritual enlightenment. And, the beings that people encounter when they do DMT and the experiences they have, this is essentially the opposite of what Jesus taught. And so again, if you're looking for some kind of an experience, some kind of, the next best trip, a better way to activate the pineal gland than just DMT or something like that, and you're trying to achieve that through Kundalini, you're at the wrong place. This video is for people who want to learn more about Jesus Christ and how to live like Him, which includes complete denial of the flesh. Because those who live according to the flesh will die, but if by the Spirit you put to death the misdeeds of the body, you will live. So if you do not want to live in the realm of the flesh, and you're ready to die to the flesh, live in the realm of the Spirit, which is the Spirit of Christ, and you want to have the Spirit of Christ in you, which is life because of righteousness, then continue on this Bible study. Husbands and wives, if you are unable to mutually agree to abstain from sex for a time, then this Bible study is not for you. Just like Corinthians says, do not deprive one another, except by agreement for a limited time, so that you may devote yourselves to prayer. And if you wish to live like Christ, you must deny the flesh. And if you and your husband and wife relationship are unable to do that, go ahead and stop the video now, because this is a requirement for fasting, prayer, and meditation. Now, finally, if you're scared of Satan, if you're afraid of evil spirits, this might be a good time to stop as well. We need to be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened. Do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. And the rod and the staff, will certainly be coming back to that. But we are not to fear evil or fear Satan. So if you come face to face with it, you need to have strength in the Lord that and not turn around and run away, because you're coming across something that may look evil, or perhaps has been portrayed as evil by the enemy purposely, so that we stay away from it. And that's where I feel the Christian church is at right now. They're too scared to do anything. They certainly won't talk about the enemy at the Masonic temple. And they won't talk about the enemy in the vaccine. No, they tell their congregation to get vaccinated. They put up a pride flag, and they say that homosexuality is okay in the eyes of God. So as we proceed through this Bible study, we're going to be going across some texts to pull some truths out of the lies, and things written by Freemasons such as Manly P. Hall. So the first thing that needs to be done is you need to suit up in the full armor of God if you're going to continue to be amongst the enemy. You wouldn't go amongst the enemy without any armor on, or else you're in trouble. So first, you should turn to Ephesians 6, and I don't know how you do it. As I continue in this Bible study of this very topic, my idea of the armor of God is even changing. But I do believe that praying, closing your eyes, and visualizing putting on this armor is extremely important, because our struggle is not against flesh and blood. It doesn't do that great to go beat up a Freemason or to try to burn down one of their lodges. Our struggle is against the rulers, the principalities of the dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. That is where the real battle takes place. So we need more warriors of God who know how to battle with the enemy, and to do it the right way. So therefore, put on the full armor of God, so that when we encounter evil, if we read something today that is a lie from the pit of hell, then we have the belt of truth. So you can visualize this. Stand firmly with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, and the breastplate of righteousness in its place. With your feet, strap on the boots of the gospel of peace, and take up the shield of faith, so that you can extinguish all flaming arrows of the evil one. Take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the Word of God. And as we go through this Bible study, we will continue to turn back to the Word of God. I encourage you to pause the video right now, and between you and God, and you and the spirit realm, equip the full armor, then continue to ingest the information so that you're ready to deflect any arrows of the evil one. Now, in this whole Kundalini diagram, at the very top of it is the pineal gland, which is the third eye, the eye of Ra from Egypt. So now in my Bible study of the pineal gland, we turn to the concordance, and we can read that the pineal gland, the word pineal means the face of God. Pineal, face of God. It's the same as pineal. The This one right here, Pineal, that means face of God. El, of course, being God, El Shaddai. So here we have the word pineal itself means the face of God. And when Jacob wrestled with God, he did it in that place called Pineal. And he called the place Pineal, saying, "It is because I saw the God face to face, yet my life was spared." So here we have manuscript lecture 18 from Manly P. Hall, the fourth dimension. Now we're going to find out that this fourth dimension is the spirit realm, and it's also what is called the astral plane. People who have done DMT, I'm not one of them, and I don't condone it. I'm going to discuss that thoroughly later, but people who have done DMT say they do something called astral projection, and they see in the astral plane. It's all the same thing. The fourth dimension, the astral plane, the spirit realm. Theories concerning the fourth dimension and the so-called third eye, or organ of perception, are very steering of interest in scientific circles in the world today, as it slowly dawns upon humans understanding that there are other dimensions that are as yet unexplored. Well, at least unexplored by the majority of people, and unexplored by modern science or biologists, that's for sure. The horned toad has on the top of his head a peculiar little protuberance, which is its third organ of vision. And in many plants, insects, we find a sensitized spot, in which is a system of sense orientation through a single organ. Following these hints, startling steps have been taken to developing sensitive objects, with the radio is an example. And it has been long noted that insects are living radiophones and receive vibratory currents through their wings. The firefly is the answer to the problem of illumination of physical matter. And the firefly, of course, creating its illumination through vibration. And I can't help but think back to Tartarian architecture, and that looked like they had lights, electric lights of some type. Maybe not electric, but more a type of vibratory light. But we can touch on that later. Where is this organ of sight in this third eye in the human body? Some say that it is the pineal gland, while others say it's the optic thalamus, and others say it's the pituitary body. So there's different theories about what exactly it is. Given by the name Pineal, the face of God, I think it's generally accepted that that it is the pineal gland that is also connected to the same neocortex part of our brain that forms images. So whether our eyeballs or the pineal was telling our brain that we're seeing something, we wouldn't be able to distinguish it. The brain is forming an image, and we're seeing it. So, but somewhere undoubtedly in man is this organ, which is capable of giving him this separate look. And what is this separate look? It is what Jacob seen when he seen the face of God. It is seeing into the spirit realm. The seat of the fourth dimension sight is an organ called the third eye, and an organ is capable of mastering the other two organs of vision, the eyes, which are the positive and negative poles of visual perception. Positive and negative are both results of matter. For those two organs of man are only capable of cognizing rates of vibration of certain density, like gas and stone, and only perceive all things within. So I think what it's trying to say is that the vibration that the eyeballs operate on only allows us to see the physical realm, and as we continue to read, we'll learn that it's a vibration that lets the pineal see into the spirit realm. The human mind cannot register anything the eyes do not bring to it, and will never do so until the organ of sense has been developed that vibrates at a higher rate. The eyes are only capable of cognizing dimensions, and the development of this other organ will bring man to the fourth dimension, or the inner hidden side of nature. In the Brahmanic theology, in India, the third eye is placed at the center of the forehead. They're said to use two eyes for the worlds of form and the third eye for the separate look. The Orientals have been seeking for some thousands of years to open a third eye, and an opened eye is the literal translation of the word booty. Ancient philosophers have told us that there is a chimney in the brain down which comes a ray of light, and that it is well known that children are particularly clairvoyant until this opening on the top of the head closes about the 7th year. And this is the baby soft spot. It's right over the pineal gland. And there's an opening over the pineal gland on the baby's head. Babies often are, say they can see, Mom, I see, oh, it's my friend I see over there. And they're talking with someone that adults don't happen to see. And I believe that's because they're seeing into the spirit realm, because they're clairvoyant up until the age, like it says here, about the 7th year of life. Studying man from the occultic or mystical standpoint, we find that there's a passing through the spinal canal of vaporous substance which rises upwards through the ventricles of the brain, where it is absorbed into the two glands, the pineal and the pituitary body. And when this substance enters the glands, it dilates them until they become 2 to 3 times their normal size, making a slight dizziness and a reaction between the eyes. The so-called astral visions are seen when the physical eyes are closed, and it is possible to ascertain that this other organ in the forehead is the one used at these times. Some occultists say that there is only one way possible to do this, and it is by raising the gaseous substance of the spinal canal and bringing it upward into the brain. The fourth dimensional sight is that which comes to man when he has raised this to the 33rd vertebrae of the spinal column and liberated it to the domed place in the temple of the head, under which rests the pituitary body and the pineal gland. Now, Jesus lived to the age of 33, and he died at a place called the skull, which Golgotha means of the skull. So, Jesus himself was about 30 years old when he began his ministry. Luke 3:23, and in 13:7, he said, "Behold, these 3 years I have come seeking fruit on this fig tree, and I find none. Cut it down." And by the way, let's remember fig tree, and that Jesus was always talking in parables about the fig tree. But this verse is in reference to his 3 years of ministry before he died. And for further evidence of the age of 33, in the Gospel, John records 3 Passovers. The Passovers occur in 3 years of Jesus' earthly ministry. John alone recorded 3 separate Passover celebrations. John mentions the first in John 2nd, the second Passover in 6:4, and the third one is in 11:55, and these scriptures right here. The third Passover is the one that occurred the night before Jesus died, and it is the one recorded by all 4 gospel writers in conjunction with the Last Supper and the death of Jesus. So we can see that Jesus was 30 years old when he began his ministry, and that his ministry lasts for 3 Passovers or 3 years. And he was at the age of 33 when he died, and that he died at Golgotha, which is a literal translation to skull. So, very interesting, and we're going to continue to, I'll bring this up again, of course, but let's remember that Jesus, being in full control of his entire life, decided to die at the age of 33, and decided to die at the place of Golgotha. And I find it hard to imagine that Jesus didn't know that there was a one-to-one correlation with this quote-unquote occultic, as it's said, which, by the way, just means occluded. Don't be too scared of that word, because just the meaning, there might be truth hidden behind that, and they might just be, use that word to get people to turn away and say, "Oh no, this is bad. Turn away. It said occult." In this case, I find it hard to believe, because if Jesus knew that man must raise up the 33 vertebrae to the spinal column where it reaches the skull, why would he deliberately choose to live to the age of 33 and then die at Golgotha, the skull? It's too symbolic to have been accidental. Jesus could have easily picked, I'm going to die at the age of, a different age, and could have picked a different place to die than something that lines up so perfectly with the description that we're reading here. The pineal gland, which is a peculiar thing, looks like a small pea at the end of a tiny finger, and it extends upward. It is this finger which dilates when the gland is filled with gas, causing it a vibration, forming a tiny radio station, which is just as sensitive to impacts as any physical sense of man. Only, of course, it responds to a higher and finer rate of vibration. The rate of its vibration is such that the material objects do not register, and therefore you could see through solid stone, and these coarser objects of the physical realm don't exist to them. You're seeing with a organ of sight that allows you to see into the spirit realm. Of course, rocks don't exist in the spirit realm. They're part of the physical realm. Many people have tried to an experiment in ways of developing such an organ, but it has been proven that spiritual thoughts raise the dome of the head, and that there is built around this organ a layer of brain convolutions of finer texture when the individual becomes a deeper thinker. The lower the intelligence, the more atrophied is the pineal gland, and the more spiritual and intellectual, the larger that body is. The pineal gland is undoubtedly a positive organ, and to find a way to develop it and awaken it is the quest. The only way to do this is to turn upon the gases of the spinal canal, and this can only be accomplished through clean living, purification, and regeneration from the lower bodies, which draw the life forces downward in the expenditure of passional energy. So this sounds like you would not want to be draining your life force downward through the expenditure of passional energy, but rather you would want to perhaps turn it inward and upward through clean living and purification. The study of this is the keynote of alchemy, studied so devoutly during the Middle Ages. And that basically the point of alchemy is to get this warm fire ascending up through the spinal canal to revivify the little body in the brain, the pineal gland. Matthew 6:22, the light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be single, thy body shall be full of light. Luke 11:34, the light of the body is the eye. Therefore, if the eye is single, the whole body is full of light. But pay attention here, because the pineal gland, as we definitely know with the Freemasons, can also be used for good or bad. When thine eye is evil, thy body is also full of darkness. So it's possible with the pineal gland that your body could be full of light, or that your body could be full of darkness. Turning here to Matthew 4:16, the people dwelling in darkness have seen a great light. So it sounds like the people dwelling in darkness and who have a single eye have seen a great light by these verses. But let's turn here to Man, the Grand Symbol of the Mysteries, once again by Manly P. Hall, where he goes into further depth on the pineal gland. The epiphysis cerebri, or the pineal body, secures its name from its shape, the pinus of the pine cone. And this pine cone has been seen from everything from Sumeria to Egypt to the Vatican. It's everywhere. As you can see the pine cone here. And notice the rod with the snakes going up. And at the top we have the pineal. It's the eye of Ra, the pineal gland. The pineal is here, and it's also the largest statue of a pine cone is over there at the Vatican. In fact, you can see that cone here on top of the head, right over the pineal. Once again, where the soft spot is on a baby's skull. Those acquainted with the esoteric function of the pineal gland or have experienced the whirring sound upon its activity will realize how apt the analogy is, and the analogy of the child Bacchus, who has the small cone-shaped piece of wood and a cord around it, which so that it might spin, making that humming noise. Here it is right here. We've got the rod and the cone on top, which will spin, making that whirling sound. Under normal conditions, the gland deteriorates with adolescence. Retrograde evolution or degeneration of the pineal body begins about the 6th or 7th year and is practically complete by puberty. So again, with the closing of the skull and then the pineal going to sleep, essentially. It goes on to explain how there is a periphis and a parietal eye, a third eye amongst some reptiles. So you can see one right here on the toad. This is actually an eye. It's a third eye that that the animal uses for a sight of some type. You're probably familiar with Mike Tyson and the toad. Here's another one on a snake, a reptile with the third eye, you could see, poking out of his head on top, in between his two other eyes. Interesting that mostly reptiles have that, because Genesis 3, the snake was wiser than any beast of the field which the Lord had made. I wonder why, if God doesn't have a preference for snakes, then why did he make the snake the wisest beast in the field? And why does Genesis say that? We've got, of snake symbology, we've got the snake, which is one of the sons of God in the Garden of Eden. So why is the Son of God a snake, by the way? Did he turn into a snake after the fall, or was he already a snake? I don't know. But here, again, the God making the snake wiser than any beast in the field. Why did he do that? It's hard to say. The pineal body must be considered as an unpaired parietal eye, which in many cases, for example, in reptiles, appears to be tolerably well preserved, but in most vertebrates is in the process of degeneration. So are reptiles, snakes the wisest in the field because they're the ones who have a well-preserved third eye, and that in us, in vertebrates, it's in the process of degeneration? Did the Egyptians know that reptiles present the highest development of this gland, and for this reason coiled the serpent upon their foreheads, where the third eye of the Orientals is placed by symbolic license? Just like this. We got the snake right at the forehead where the third eye is at. There is an alchemical mystery also in connection with the pineal gland. For the regeneration of man is dependent upon the tincturing of this gland, which must be transmuted from base metal into gold. Unawakened by Kundalini, the pineal gland is the vehicle of an animal mind, but if it's tinctured by spiritual light, it becomes the divine mind. The philosophers knew that the pineal gland was an organ of conscious vision long before the physical eyes issued from the brain, not necessarily or exclusively of such vision as we have today, but rather vision of that world wherein man dwelt before his lapse into the present state. Now, I find this to be quite possibly true. As his contact with the physical world grew more complete, the individual lost his functions upon the inner planes of life and lost his ability to use the pineal. Let's turn to Genesis 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. He said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters." And by the way, where is that science? The firmament. Where is that one? Of course, we know where it is. And he put man into the Garden of Eden to tend it and to keep it. And the serpent was more cunning than any beast in the field. And the serpent said to the woman, "For God knows if you eat from the tree, your eyes, plural eyes, will be opened, and that you will be like God, knowing good and evil." So her eyes weren't opened yet. The physical eyes of Eve were closed. Adam and Eve didn't have physical eyes at first. They were operating in the realm of the spirit. That's why Eve is able to have a conversation with a serpent, because she can see it and talk to it. So she took the fruit and ate it. She gave it to her husband and ate it. And the eyes of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked. Why did they now know that they were naked? Because their physical eyes were opened up, and they could look down and see their physical body and go, "Oh, whoa, we're naked." Whereas if you were seen with this eye, you obviously don't see your physical body like this, and you don't see yourself as naked. So he drove him out of the Garden of Eden, and he placed a cherubim in the east of the Garden of Eden with a flaming sword which turned every way to guard the way to the tree of life. Now, Kundalini racing up the spine is definitely one analogy of a flaming sword, and that guards the way to the tree of life. But it is a tree, it's a tree of life, because we'll see Jesus speak about trees. But there is a flaming sword guarding the way to the tree of life. And I think it's very quite possible that Adam and Eve did not first have functional eyes. They didn't see themselves as naked until that fruit was eaten, and God opened up their eyes and they seen that they were naked. And then a veil was created between man and God. He was kicked out of the Garden of Eden. The Garden of Eden likely may be a place in the spirit realm. And then Jesus came to remove the veil between man and God. Jesus came to teach us about the flaming sword. And Jesus came to teach us how to remove the veil and once again see the face of God at the place called Pineal. Several statements appear in the Hebrew scriptures that may be taken as indirect allusions to the pineal gland. The little body has a finger-like protuberance at one end, the furthest from the point of attachment. This protuberance is called the staff of God and corresponds to the Holy Spirit and the Grail mysteries. The whole gland is shaped like an evaporating vessels or retorts of alchemists. The vibrating finger on the end of the gland is the rod of Jesse and the scepter of the high priest. This finger will vibrate at an incalculable rate of speed, which results in the buzzing or droning sound in the head already mentioned. This is the all-seeing eye of the Masonic Brethren, the eye single in the scriptures in which the body is filled with light, the one eye of Odin, which enables him to know the mysteries, the eye of Horus, which at one time Typhon swallows up, the eye of the Lord. It goes on. And remember with occultic matters or with the Masons that the eye can be full of light, but if the eye is evil, the body will also be full of darkness. So this practice can either be good or bad. And people are going to tell me that this is only evil, that the pineal gland is a way to Satan, a way to demons. Then why did God create it in my brain? How does that work with the creation story? Satan came up to God and said, "Hey God, by the way, I need a way to communicate with my followers in a really special way where we can see each other face to face. Would you install, the pineal gland in the human brain for me?" Is that what Satan said to God? And then God was like, "Okay, Satan, sure, I'll put the pineal gland in the very center of the brain, the most important part, right at the core of it, the very most important part, of the most special part of our body, the brain. And God's going to put in the middle of there a red telephone to Satan, so that we can just pick up and get the hotline right to Satan anytime we want." That doesn't make any sense because Satan is in the spirit realm. Demons are in the spirit realm. If the pineal lets you to see into the spirit realm, it would then give you the ability to see either demons and evil or angels and God. And I suppose that right now in the current state of Earth, the first thing you're going to see is probably going to be demons and evil, because is not this entire place run by evil? So you better expect the first thing to encounter is probably going to be something evil. That's why people say don't get involved with this. You're going to see something, this is evil, that's bad. And again, I go back to the beginning when I say, did you have your full armor of God equipped? Before you even got into the thought of activating your pineal gland, did you get your full armor equipped? Because if you didn't, you're going to battle with someone who's going to destroy you. And yeah, you better stay away from this. Are you scared of Satan? Are you scared of the valley of the shadow of death? Or are you willing to be courageous to equip your armor of God and go into places where you might encounter evil beings and be ready to rebuke them in the name of Jesus Christ? But if you want to pick up the sword of the Spirit and continue and join God's army, let's keep pushing forward. The mysterious Kundalini. The basis of Kundalini or Hatha Yoga. Dedicated to those interested in the science of yoga. And we're going to learn that yoga as as that word is being interpreted nowadays, is completely wrong. These are what bandhas, I think they're called, body locks or something. It's such a small part of yoga, and let's learn what real yoga is, because the term has become distorted into such a goofy practice. Not too goofy. It's good to be flexible and to be able to do stretches. But this modern hot yoga and all this has nothing to do with what real science and philosophy of yoga and yoga practices really are. Now, I hope you've got the full armor equipped, because initially when I see something like this, I'm going to be turning around and running from it. The Kundalini is sleeping above the Khanda, dispensing liberation to yogis and bondage to fools. He who knows her knows yoga. The Kundalini, crooked in form, is described as being coiled like a serpent. He who causes the Shakti to move is certain to be freed. As Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so the Son of Man be lifted up. Here is a human body, and these nerve plexuses, and then the pineal, of course, corresponding to the chakras from meditation. The chakras in meditation are the root, sacral, solar plexus, the heart, throat, the third eye, and then the crown, which is not part of the body, but it's above the head, out of body at that point. But here we have the pineal of the spine. It is broken down into 5 different sections of the 33 vertebrae. The anatomy of a spine is broken up into 5 different parts. In fact, the colors might even be the same. We've got the cervical, the thoracic, the lumbar, the sacrum, and the coccyx. So even the anatomy of our 33 vertebrae is broken down into the 5 sections that are the 5 chakras, starting from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Of course, at that point, the spine ends and it goes on up into the brain. And for those 5 different nerve plexuses, they of course here they're corresponding to each one of the chakra and the 33 vertebrae, where then you proceed into Golgotha. In 1926, Deshbandhu demonstrated certain phenomena, such as stopping the radial and temporal pulse on both sides at will, and the stopping of the heartbeat for a few seconds. He showed some rare feats of archery, such as the splitting of a hair of a thread by an arrow shot at them from a distance of 15 to 20 feet. You've probably seen Robin Hood do that, right? So I guess Robin Hood was a yogi? He broke an iron chain 3/8 of an inch in thickness by a mere tug of his body, and the chain fixed at the other end. One jerk and crack up went the chain in 2 pieces. How that was done was the expression that ran from mouth to mouth at the moment, and a good many present offered explanations. It was due to muscle control. Others say hypnosis produced in a man who watched the pulse, while others suggested nerve control. The gentleman performing the feats did it by knowledge of yogic science and pranayama. Now, pranayama, I keep coming across in doing my breathing exercises, because pranayama is yogic breathing, and breath of fire is pranayama. And basically what Wim Hof is doing is pranayama. So over there in the Bombay Medical Union, they weren't able to record everything with scientific equipment, so they brought Deshbandhu to the medical college with a few guests, with doctors of medicine, to judge the truth of the statements, to make sure that this wasn't some kind of a hoax or some kind of a sideshow or hypnosis, hypnotizing the crowd, and then he saws the chain in half and then brings the people out of hypnosis. But he was asked to stop his pulse on the right wrist, and he did it. And then he stopped the pulse completely on the other side of his body. He was asked to stop the breathing of the heart. His heart thereupon contracted and became smaller and smaller until the size of it reached a minimum limit. The apex was about 2/3 of an inch of the internal normal position. So how is this done? Can we explain it by various phenomena produced by our present knowledge of physiology and anatomy? Yogis who are advanced in the yoga science have been able to stop their organs, including respiratory function, and make it inactive. The contraction of the heart can never disappear completely because of the inherent rhythmicity of its muscle. The knowledge of this fact perhaps led ancients to believe that the embodied soul has its abode in the heart. In fact, this rhythmic action, which is a frequency, by the way, the frequency of the heart is the absence of all voluntary and involuntary movements, and is the only continuing function that brings them back to the material plane again if they so desire, after they say experiencing and gaining knowledge on the spiritual plane. We have heard stories of yogis who have buried themselves for a required time extending over days or even months, when every function of the body is held in abeyance, and even the most important function of respiration. They too keep on the pilot light in the form of the rhythmic movement of the heart, burning to ignite the flame of life again as they are brought out of the place of burial. So, I hate to say that Jesus didn't die. He definitely died to the flesh. So, but it's possible that while he was in the tomb, that he kept that pilot light on, and ignited the flame of life again as he was brought out of his place of burial. I am in no way questioning that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, and that the seed that created Jesus was also the seed from God. And that there was a virgin birth. I just believe that Jesus, as we continue to study this, that Jesus was born with a completely unlocked and active Kundalini, as would anyone who has that seed from God. Jesus being the only one who's been born that way, would be born in that way. But let's continue. We are told by Deshbandhu that he is enabled to do all these feats by the yogic practice of pranayama. The explanation of this, however, is Greek to us unless we're initiated into the initiated. Let's leave that word out of it. Unless we learn about the yogic science and interpret it in terms of modern science and our present knowledge of anatomy and physiology. What then is yoga, and what is pranayama? If anything abnormal is done by a person, anything beyond the capacity of an ordinary individual, it is generally said to be done by the science of yoga. A simple definition of yoga is found in the Bhagavad Gita, where it is described as equanimity in mind and deed, resulting in efficiency of action done as service dedicated to God. Is dedicating my mind and my thoughts and my deeds to be efficient service dedicated to God, is that bad? I don't think so. Yoga is the science which raises the capacity of the human mind to respond to higher vibrations and to perceive, catch, and assimilate the infinite conscious movements going on around us in the universe and in the spirit world. It makes one a broadcasting and receiving radio station. So here again, it gets your mind or your brain onto the correct frequency or vibration so that it can receive signals, I guess, from God or from the spirit realm. It is claimed that the miracles performed by the long line of saints, saviors, and sages of all times and in all climes were due to the knowledge of this, the grandest of all sciences. From the definition given above, we can see that yoga means the union or the linking together of man with God, or more correctly, the disunion and separation of man from objects of sense, the phenomenal world. Objects of sense, or the flesh. Romans 8, those who live in according to the flesh have their minds set on what the flesh desires. And what is the flesh other than the 5 objects of sense? What you want to touch and feel. That, of course, is tied into sexual pleasure. What you smell and eat, gluttony. And what you want to hear. You know, a lot of times, music and things that aren't good going into your ears, but you still want to hear it. You know, so those who live in according to the flesh have their mind set on what the flesh desires, but those who live in accordance to the Spirit have their mind set on what the Spirit desires. And what does the Spirit desire? Well, it desires for us to become joined with the Lord and become one spirit with Him. 1 Corinthians 6:17, but he who is joined to the Lord becomes one spirit with Him. That's exactly what this says here. Yoga means the linking or union together of man with God. Or more correctly, the disunion or separation from man from his flesh, from the phenomenal world. Instead, we're living to further our life in the spirit world. The object of his search can be obtained by a variety of ways, either by dedicating all fruits of his work to God, or the absolute surrender of all hopes and aspirations, including the self, also to God, in the belief that His grace is our highest good. The highest form of yoga is that in which the soul does not see itself except as infilled and made identical with God. Exactly what 1 Corinthians 6:17 says, joining the Lord and becoming one spirit with Him. So as, maybe different people have different definitions of yoga. Someone thinks it's going down to the place on the corner they pay every month and doing stretches or whatever. The definition that we get from this book, I have nothing wrong with, and it seems to align perfectly with what the Bible is also teaching. So let's move on to the steps necessary for the achievement of yoga. And it says there's 8 of them here. So the first one is yama. This signifies truthfulness, not stealing, continuance, and not receiving of gifts. Similar to the 10 Commandments. Don't bear false witness against your neighbor. Thou shalt not steal. So I don't, again, nothing wrong here. Niyama. Cleanliness, both external and internal. Contentment, study, and adoration of God. Is there anything wrong with living clean externally and internally? Studying and adoration of God. Nothing wrong with that. Asana is the third step. And this is where we kind of branch away from what the Christian church would teach, because the Christian church doesn't care whether you're, 500 pounds or whether you sit down in a pew, but that, or if you sit at a desk your whole life, it doesn't really matter. But asana is the third step, and it's where the postures come in. And it says that Padmasana is a sitting posture with the legs crossed. This is the popular image from Buddha. And in this asana, the left foot is placed on the right thigh and the right foot on the left thigh. The hands rest on the right thigh near the knee. The palm is directed upwards with the tips of the thumb and the forefinger remaining in contact. And we can turn the page and see what that looks like. Here's Padmasana. And for once, I finally have an explanation for why this would be beneficial. For me personally, I've been practicing this, and it's been difficult for me to get my legs in this posture. So I'm back to stretching, and which is healthy. So I don't have a problem with that. And sitting in this posture has been beneficial for my spine, because over the years and years and years of working on a computer, I've kind of developed a hunchback spine sitting in a chair, in a regular chair, hunched over the keyboard. So sitting in this Padmasana and filling your lungs completely full of air, you really have no choice but to have a perfectly straight spine. So this has been beneficial for me because of kind of a humpback that I've had with my spine. But further than that, what happens when you sit in this posture is that you're kind of forcing your hips open so that the coiled Kundalini that's trapped near the root chakra can start to work its way out. Now, I think there's also you can also help by contracting some of the muscles down in that root chakra area. But definitely sitting in this position kind of opens up the hips to help that Kundalini come out and move up the 33 vertebrae. Now, speaking of 33, there's one hidden. Right? There's one hidden over here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So they're sitting in this posture. When you remain contact between the index finger and the thumb, you end up with the 33 on your hands. Now, I personally don't have a problem with 33. I feel like the Freemasons have stole it and tried to make it look evil, stay away from it, whereas Jesus Christ himself used it when he decided to live to the age of 33 and then die at Golgotha. So, if the Masons have stolen the number 33 from Jesus, I think it's time that we take it back and not be scared of it. They are also useful as therapeutic measures for certain disease conditions, and more particularly for certain chronic ones associated with the nerves and metabolism. And the practitioners of the same go further to say that it will cure diseases like leprosy and epilepsy. And these can be cured with the postural methods called Sarvagana Sadhana. I probably pronounced that wrong. But using yoga, we have the ability to cure leprosy. Now, Jesus cured leprosy. I don't necessarily think he had to sit down and start breathing in a certain way. I think that he, being the Son of God, could just obviously place his hands on someone and heal them. Now, according to 1 Corinthians 12, each one of us has been given one of the manifestations of the Holy Spirit. And some of these are different: wisdom, knowledge. But one of them is the gift of healing by that one Spirit. So the gift of healing might not be for me, maybe it's not for you, but it does say in the Bible that the gift of healing has been given to us. And Jesus called his disciples to him. He gave them the power against unclean spirits to cast them out and to heal all manners of sickness and all manners of diseases. Now, if we take up our cross and follow Christ, then we too are disciples of Jesus Christ. And it says that we have been given the power against unclean spirits and to heal all manners of sickness. In the Christian church, nobody can really, I've never seen a healing, not once. In practice, years and years and years, I've never seen one miraculous healing. I only read about them in the Bible, never seen one. I never had anybody in the church explain to me how I might be able to heal, other than having the faith of a mustard seed. But here it does say that here's one way where we can heal disease, and it goes specifically into pranayama. Now, I ran into pranayama when I was learning the breath of fire. And pranayama is just basically taken to mean the regulation of breath. And so this next step after sitting in a certain posture is important. But then also breathing is important. Besides that, breathing is the chief method of absorbing energy from the atmosphere. It may be put that the lungs are the storehouse of absorbed atmospheric energy, and that they impart it to the rest of our organs. Now, if the Kundalini needs to get some of this energy to work its way up the 33 vertebrae, then it may be that we need to breathe to get the energy down into the root chakra. And I also want to start, thinking about Tartaria and free energy. What energy is it that they were harnessing? Because is it this energy from the atmosphere? Did they figure out how to create some type of, through engineering, create a storehouse for absorbed atmospheric energy? In fact, what the flywheel is to machinery, the lungs are to the body. And with each breath, we inhale a certain amount of electricity or energy from the atmospheric air. The energy is absorbed by the blood, and it goes all over the body. Now, normally respiration is involuntary, but we can make it to be voluntary. And that's where we don't want to just go through all day with just not thinking about breathing. We need to stop, control our breath, and some of these breathing exercises have been helpful for me. The breath of fire and the Wim Hof breath. They've definitely, helped me get my spine more straight and even develop muscle in the core area. Thus, in yogic breathing, both the lungs from the apex to the base are entirely filled with air at each inspiration, so as to absorb the maximum quantity of oxygen and to store up the maximum amount of energy, which is called prana. If you wish to understand the universe, think of energy, frequency, and vibration. And the source for this can't be traced back to Tesla, if he actually said that or not. But one of the greatest yogis of Tesla's day was Swami Vivekananda. And here we can see Nikola Tesla hanging out with the yogi. And you could read about it here. But the yogi and Tesla began discussing the notions of prana and of course yoga, because the yogi was teaching the Tesla yoga, and thus was the beginning of a friendship between the yogi and the inventor. And we can see this is something that Tesla certainly studied, as he wrote here in Man's Greatest Achievement. Long ago, he recognized that all perceptible matter comes from a primary substance, and filling all space, the akasa, or lumiferious ether, which is acted upon by the life-giving prana, or creative force, calling itself into existence, its never-ending cycles, all things and phenomena. So Tesla definitely studied yoga, or he wouldn't be writing about prana as a creative force. And maybe this is why that quote is attributed to Tesla. It's quite possible he did say that if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibrations. And the number of times these words keep coming up throughout this book right here alone, let alone the entire study of the pineal gland, because is it not the pineal that has to start vibrating at a certain frequency before it starts working correctly? And a warning is given not to use the power gained by pranayama for the attainment of unholy objects or psychic powers, because then follows an entanglement and bondage and all kinds of other problems. But when the powers are used for the liberation of the self from the bondage of the flesh, by curbing evil emotions and unholy passions, the mind overthrows the dominion of matter and the thraldom of sensual pleasures. So again, it could either be used for bondage, Freemasonry, or it could be used to, as Jesus taught, for to deny the flesh and to become one with the Holy Spirit. So this breathing technique can not only brings energy into the body, and it probably is very important to do breathing exercises, but it's also used for healing. Now, I have already been on this video trying to learn how to do fire breath properly. And fire breath it's great for a lot of different health reasons: diabetes, lung capacity, blood circulation, digestion, core strength. So let's just see how to do this pranayama fire breath technique.
Intermediate, if you are a little advanced, if you are doing Kapalbhati minimum 3 months, 6 months, then you can do 1 second, 1 exhale. So it will be like this. This is for intermediate people. Now, the student who is regular, who is 1 year, 2 year regular practicing Kapalbhati can do 2 breath, 2 exhale in 1 second. It will be like this.
All right, that's very interesting. Especially if you're familiar with Dan Brown and the Lost Symbol. Now, The Lost Symbol is an excellent book about Freemasonry, which exposes a lot of truths. They're, of course, portrayed as fiction, but it's a book full of truth. A video series has been made recently on it, so you can watch watch the TV episodes if you don't want to read the book. The book, of course, is a lot better. But season 1, episode 7. Look, the guy has been injured and he needs healing. Let's look at how he gets healed.
What are you doing?
Well, that's pranayama. He is certainly doing the breath of fire.
This.
Okay. A yogi, when he is in this state, develops what he calls an internal vision, and he's able to see what's going on in his body or in nature not perceived ordinarily. In fact, everything in his nature is an open book to him. There are no secrets left to him. He sees into his body how the different organs work, how prana, or the vital force, is transmitted in his body, how it encounters the different chakras or nerve plexuses, and how holding prana in a particular chakra, the different organs are interfered with, producing activity or sluggishness. That the yogis by practice can control the autonomic nervous system is a fact, glimpses into which are given to us by Deshbantu when he demonstrated the stopping of the pulse in one hand only while the rest of the arteries were beating. So we have the Kundalini, crooked in form, described as being coiled like a serpent. He who causes the Shakti to move is certain to be freed, and it's stuck down here somewhere near the root chakra. In the physical form, she is lying dormant and coiled up like a serpent in an individual. When awakened by yoga practices, an individual gains for himself the power of performing miracles. The lowermost chakra, which the Kundalini forms a connection and through which it is able to send impulses, is the basic plexus, the Muladhara chakra, which is the root chakra. It is a continuation of the hypergastric plexus, which bifurcates below the two lateral positions and assumes the shape of a triangle. Thus, we have the downward facing triangle. So if you're wondering why the coiled serpent is shown in a triangle, because it's physically stuck in that shape. By contemplation on the chakra, the yogi obtains freedom from disease. And it's starting to become clear why the book of John says that Jesus needs to lift up the serpent, needs to raise the serpent. It's talking about the Kundalini. And to prove that, let's go see what Moses did. Neshuten is the name given to a bronze image of a serpent on a pole. I wonder what the serpent on a pole is. That wouldn't be the Kundalini going up the spine, would it? It's in the book of Numbers. Now, the text we're reading right now warns about misusing the Kundalini for basically for personal gain or for psychic powers or anything like that. And it may be that when Numbers 21 is speaking about the Israelites getting bit by the fiery serpent or by the venomous snake. Let's turn over to the King James Version, and you'll notice that it says the Lord sent fiery serpents, not venomous snakes, but fiery serpents. By the way, fiery serpent is typically referred to as Kundalini. So, Kundalini, the serpent of fire. But they're getting bit by these fiery serpents. Does that mean that they're misusing the Kundalini and that it's causing them harm? And that's why the Lord says to Moses, make a fiery serpent and set it on a pole, and anybody who looks at it shall live. And Moses made a bronze serpent, put on a pole, and if anyone had been bitten, they looked at it and he lived. Now, I don't know whether to accept the literal translation of this, that he made a bronze serpent, or it sounds like Moses is lifting the Kundalini up in order to heal the Israelites. Because before this, in Exodus 24, God say Thou shalt not make for yourself an image in the form of anything. Do not make an idol of anything. Yet then he's going to turn to Moses and tell Moses to make a graven image of a snake. That doesn't make sense. That God contradicts himself. Or Moses didn't make a graven image of anything. He raised the serpent. And the fiery serpent went up the pole, went up the spine. 1 Corinthians 14:33, for God is not a God of confusion. So why, if he's not a God of confusion, then why would he be making contradicting rules? He says one thing and then does another? That's not what God would do. So I must think that Moses did not make a graven image of a serpent, and that this translation, and when it says he made it of bronze and he made, I think that perhaps the truth of this story has been lost. And the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, when Pharaoh says to you, perform a miracle, then say to Aaron, take your staff and throw it down before Pharaoh, and it will become a snake. Why would God want to do this? Is this not the symbology of a Kundalini awakening, taking a staff, throwing it on the ground, and having it become a snake? Let me pull up the image of the Kundalini awakening. Here's the spine. Here is the snake. We've got the left and the right, which we're going to find out later. One of them is white colored, which comes from down here, and the other one is honey colored. It's bronze. Guess what? It's bronze. And this is what is called milk and honey. When the two reach the pineal gland, you finally reach the land of milk and honey. Here is the image of a Kundalini awakening, and you can see the staff and the serpent. So, if God doesn't know about the Kundalini awakening, then I don't know who does, when he is the one who's telling Moses to throw a staff onto the ground and it's going to turn into a snake. In fact, that's a pretty strong message. That's something that I would want to do if I walked into a Masonic lodge. Walk in there with a staff, throw it on the ground, and it becomes a snake. Why? Because it's not only does it physically, with your own eyes, you see a miracle being performed, but in addition to that, it has a hidden symbolic meaning. And the hidden symbolic meaning is, I know about the staff and I know about the snake. And guess what? I know how to use it because, boom, I'm going to throw my staff on the ground and perform a miracle. And miracles are thus only performed by raising the Kundalini, by having that snake, that serpent go up the staff. The excitement of all chakras, as mentioned above, takes place through Kundalini. It is the lever of consciousness by which the individual realizes his oneness with God, which is exactly what the Bible tells us to do. All creative power comes from Kundalini, the serpent power, as it is called, the 6 chakras or plexuses, and their connection. Normally, Kundalini is in a sleeping trance, and when it is awakened from the slumber and made to work, the yogi perceives all supernatural truths. The resurrection of the soul from the grave of untruth becomes an actual fact, and perception of beauty, which is an attribute of the self, fills the heart with joy. Health is also said to be the gift of Kundalini. Kundalini is the mother of joy, of sweet rest, of sleep, faith, and wisdom. The dormant Kundalini guards the 3 important openings in the cerebrospinal nervous system. So this may be the flaming sword that guards the entrance to the Garden of Eden. And it may not have been there before Adam and Eve, and when Adam and Eve ate from the tree, this protective measure was put in place, and God said, because humans are so, susceptible to be deceived, and they're going to be deceived by evil beings in the spirit realm, I'm going to turn off the communication between humans and the spirit realm. And unless somebody goes through a long, arduous process of denying the flesh and proving that they are truly seeking God and have a true clean heart, then That's how the Kundalini is guarding the entrance into the Garden of Eden. Here we can see the Kundalini ascends up the spine, where it is bathed in the stream of ambrosia, the cerebrospinal fluid. So that ambrosia, that's the honey. And the milk, of course, being a white fluid, how the transformation of the genes is affected through a rejuvenative activity of the reproductive system upon the arousal of the serpent power, and how the white fluid, from milk and honey in men, is sent cascading stream of radiant energy into the brain and other vital organs, kept closely guarded secrets by the adepts from the past, forms a breathtaking story of the still hidden secrets of nature that will be narrated in its proper time. The same happens with the female hormones and its secretions. So if you're a female, don't worry, the same union with God is possible through the same yogi practices. And the rejuvenative and transformative process set afoot is a marvelous phenomena that has no parallel anywhere. Gopni Krishna awakened the serpent fire in himself in December 1937 at the age of 34, 1 year after Jesus died, after 17 years of almost daily meditation. He would concentrate intensely on a spot above his eyebrows for approximately 3 hours each morning before leaving for his office. On the event that occurred on the particular morning, he wrote, "Suddenly, with a roar like a waterfall, fell a stream of liquid gold entering my brain through the spinal cord. The illumination grew brighter and brighter, the roar louder and louder." Job 37:2, "Listen to the thunder of his voice. It rolls across the heavens, and his lightning flashes out in every direction. Afterward comes the roaring of the thunder, the tremendous voice of his majesty. His voice is glorious in the thunder." The illumination grew brighter and brighter, the roar louder and louder, and I became a vast circle of consciousness in which the body was but a point bathed in light and in a state of exaltation and happiness impossible to describe. The verse mentions the gift of genius. The gift of genius comes from Kundalini. And what is important is the flow of the gleaming radiation from the potent generative fluids from the root chakra, the reproductive region, to the brain through the spinal cord. The language is metamorphic, but the illusions are clear beyond the least shadow of doubt. The sparkling radiation is white like snow. Sometimes it is likened to milk. The ambrosia is the nectar, like the honey, reproductive secretion, which at its highest point of ecstasy pours into the brain with such an intensely pleasurable sensation that even the sexual orgasm pales in significance before it. This unbelievably rapturous sensation pervading the whole of the spinal cord, the organs of generation, and the brain is nature's incentive to the effort directed at self-transcendence, as the orgasm is the incentive for the reproductive act. There are unmistakable references to Kundalini in the Bible. And I couldn't agree more. Moses, it's one after the next with Christ. We get it with Jesus Christ, and I'm going to get into even more that haven't been mentioned yet. So you can imagine that a traditional orgasm stimulating the nerves, perhaps in the Muladhara chakra down here, and people thinking that that's kind of the best thing ever, yet realize that that's when you direct your energy outwards. And if you direct this energy inwards, that it can go up. And if it does reach here, it describes that basically this one, and the brain, all of the nerve plexuses experience a different type of orgasm, which obviously would be much more strong and much more pleasurable than just one of one plexus. Now I'm going to turn now to one book that's not canonical, but it's the Gospel of Thomas. And it's not canonical, probably because they never wanted you to know about it. So here's a map of Tartaria. And I guess if you're a Christian and you believe in a Kundalini awakening, you're probably called a Gnostic Christian. So I guess the closest Christianity that I probably align with would be called Gnostic Christianity. But I'm starting to more call that Tartarian Christianity. And the reason why is because here we got Tartaria and Arzareth. I hope you've seen episode 1 of the Tartarian Christianity series, because it describes, how all this ties in with the Tartarians and the lost 10 tribes of Israel. But they went to Arzareth. Here the 10 tribes retreated. And just south of that is Argon, which is formerly a Christian nation, established by St. Thomas the Apostle, Didymus Thomas. So St. Thomas the Apostle established this Christian kingdom of Argon in Tartaria. And it says right next to this, over here in Tabor, the center area of the Tartars, where once the holy books got lost. Well, I never heard about the Bible getting lost. But I sure did hear about this guy getting his gospel lost. The Gospel of Thomas. St. Thomas the Apostle, Didymus Thomas. That's right. He has a holy book that got lost. And it's called the Gospel of Thomas. In fact, you want to know another interesting name for the Gospel of Thomas? It's called Q. That's right, it's Q. The Saints Gospel, or Q. The Saints Gospel, Q, dates to the earliest Christian times prior to the composition of the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke. It is a written source of sayings and disclosures attributed to Jesus used by the authors of the Gospels of Matthew and Luke. Matthew and Luke used Q to supplement the material they both inherited from the Gospel of Mark. So if you read Matthew and Luke, you'll find that there's word for word identical things. Pieces of Matthew and Luke, just word for word identical. And you'll find that same identical source in the Gospel of Thomas, which predates Matthew and Luke. So that means that Matthew and Luke, when they wrote their Gospels, they must have used Q as the source. Q should be called a discourse or a sayings gospel. In this respect, it is much closer to the Gospel of Thomas, a collection of Jesus' sayings, than it is to canonical gospels. So, if you're stuck in, the 1611 KJV, which was made by Rosicrucians, and you want to throw this out, that's fine. But it's likely that it was used by Matthew and Luke when they wrote their Gospels. And it very likely should be canonical. In addition to that, I find it likely that this is the holy books that got lost, being that they are just across the river here from the kingdom, which is established by this very guy, Didymus Thomas. So here it is, the Gospel of Thomas. Let's go back to the prologue. And it says that these are the secret words which living Jesus spoke, and which Judas Thomas wrote down. There it is. Didymus Thomas. Didymus Thomas. And you can see his name, D. Thoma Didymus Thomas. If you haven't read it, I encourage you to. Here's an interesting one where it says, Jesus said, if those who lead you say to you, see the kingdom of heaven, then the birds of heaven will go before you. And if they say to you, it is in the sea, then the fish will go before you. But the kingdom is within you, and it is outside of you. And when you know yourselves, then you will be known, and then you will know that you are sons of the living Father. So one hint here that certainly ties into the yogi practices are that he says, don't look up to the heavens for heaven. Don't look down to the sea for heaven. But the kingdom is within you. And Luke 17:21 has a shortened version of this where it says, nor will they say, see here or see there, for indeed the kingdom of God is within you. So he say, don't look to the birds. He said, I forgot to shorten it up. We don't look to the heavens, or if you say the kingdom of heaven is you'll look to the sea, for indeed the kingdom of God is within you. Jesus said, recognize what is before you, and what is hidden from you will be revealed to you. For there is nothing hidden that will not be made manifest. Gospel of Thomas, saying 19, Jesus said, blessed is he who was before, who came into being. If you become disciples to me, and listen to my words, these stones will minister to you. Luke 19:40, I tell you, he replied, if they keep quiet, the stones will cry out. Very similar account. If you become disciples of me and listen to my words, these stones will minister to you. For you have 5 trees in paradise, which do not change, either in summer or in winter, and their leaves do not fall. He who knows them shall not taste death. Now, what are these trees? Jesus says, for you have 5 trees in paradise that don't change, neither in the summer or the winter, their leaves don't fall. He who knows them shall not taste death. Now, the Bhagavad Gita talks about fig trees, and Jesus also talked a lot about fig trees. So I don't know if Jesus drew that fig tree inspiration from the Bhagavad Gita or not, but they both talk about fig trees. Sri Krishna compares the material world to an upside-down fig tree. The Ashvata, the sacred fig tree. The Bhagavad Gita in exposition, the Ashvata tree, allegorically described in the first 4 verses of the Bhagavad Gita, thinks the Ashvata tree having its roots above the brain, and I've had that described as if, like with the soft spot with the baby's skull, that the roots are, basically go up above us to this crown chakra, which leads to God. So the tree itself, above that is God, and then we have the roots, which are the roots of the brain, and the trunk of the tree is the spinal cord. So it's an upside down tree. And let's turn to the diagram here of the different nerve plexuses in the body, and we can see that the roots of the tree would be up here, coming into the brain, and the upside down trees are here. Here's the first one, the nerve plexus in the throat. There's the one here. Then we have the solar plexus, the hypogastric plexus, and the pelvic plexus. Now, above that is the pineal, but the number of upside down trees is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And those obviously correspond with the root chakra, sacral, solar plexus, heart, and throat. After that is the pineal, and then above the head, which is the crown chakra, which, you see like a halo around angels' heads, or a halo of light around Jesus' head. That's because the crown chakra is active. But of the nerve plexuses, there's only 5. There's the one in the throat, the heart, the solar plexus, sacral, and root. So it should be very clear at this point in the Gospel of Thomas when Jesus said, for you have 5 trees in paradise, which do not change, either in summer or in winter, and their leaves do not fall. So here we have the 5 upside down trees in us. He says, for you have 5 trees. Yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They don't change into summer or winter, and their leaves do not fall. He who knows them shall not taste death. What is Jesus Christ trying to tell us? He's trying to tell us that we need to raise the Kundalini, and we need to know each one of our nerve plexuses. Jesus said, if you do not fast to the world, you will not find the kingdom. Jesus said, the Pharisees and scribes have taken the keys of knowledge. This is called gnosis in the Greek. And they have hidden them. They do not go in. They do not go into the kingdom of heaven. And those who have wished to go in, they did not allow. But you, be as wise as serpents. Why do we need to be as wise as serpents? And as innocent as doves? Let me rephrase this for modern days. The Freemasons have taken the keys of gnosis, and they have hidden them. They do not want you to go in. Those who have wished to go in and find the kingdom of heaven, they did not allow. But you need to be as wise as a serpent and as innocent as a dove. And why do we mean to be wise as a serpent? Because we need to, just like Moses did, we need to raise the serpent as Jesus did. Jesus said, "Show me the stone which the builders rejected. It is the cornerstone." The stone that the Freemasons have rejected has become the cornerstone. Jesus said, "He who is near me is near the fire." What fire? The flaming sword? The fire of the Kundalini when it rushes up your spine? He who is near me is near the fire. He who is far from me is far from the kingdom. You're not going to enter the kingdom of heaven unless you know your 5 trees and get the Kundalini to reach Pineal, the face of God. Jesus said, when you make the two one, you will become the sons of man. And when you say mountain move away, it will move away. This concept of two becoming one keeps reoccurring over and over again. His disciples said, "On what day will the kingdom come? It will not come while people watch for it." And Jesus said, "The kingdom of the Father is spread out over the earth, and men do not see it." Why don't they see it? Because they haven't raised the serpent like Jesus taught us to. And when he was speaking about to enter the kingdom, you need to become like children, he said, when you make the two one. What does he mean by make the two one? I might be wrong about this, but from my own practice, I think that he's talking about crossing your eyes. Because you're making the two eyes into one. And moving your gaze towards the tip of your nose. And making the two into one. In Padmasana, the left hand rests on the thigh, and the gaze is directed onto the tip of the nose. This book specifically mentions this time and time again. The gaze in this posture is directed towards the root of the nose. So, when Jesus said make the two one, well, there's a lot of different meanings to that. But I can promise you, I found something with directing the gaze towards the root of the nose, specifically during breathing exercises. Now, the other way that you make two into one, without a doubt, is the milk and the honey. You make the two into one. And you don't do that until you get to the pineal. That's where the two unite into one. After that is above the head, that's the crown chakra. But before that, the two unite into one. It doesn't happen at any of the 5 trees. They do kind of pass by each other and enjoin for a moment at each one, but they really merge together and come into one. The milk and the honey, or the Ida and the Pingala, and that is, that's where the two become one. I also should talk about Astro-theology. A lot of people think that the teachings of Jesus is just about the sun and sun god and sun worship and the Sabbath. He's the son of God. The Sabbath is on Sunday. There's a bunch of sun god influence in there, and it'd be silly to ignore that. But the sun and the moon are associated with the left and the right sides of the brain. And Jesus is always on the right side. Here we go, and this also solidifies that alchemy is just a study of how to raise the Kundalini. But here in the symbology is plain as day. For one, we've got the sword and the snake going up it, the rod with the snakes going up it, the 2 different snakes. And then we've got the sun on one side and the moon on the other. And there's a reason why Jesus Christ is associated with this side, with the side of the sun. But let's go through some images here. We've got the rod, the snakes going up, the sun and the moon. Here again, alchemy with the, the Ida and the Pingala, the left and the right side going up. Symbolism of the serpent climbing the spine. Once again here, we have alchemy, the serpent's climbing the spine, and we have the sun on one side and the moon on the other. Alchemy, here you go. And the Mercury is one of the fluids that is, it's either the milk or the honey, I'm not sure which one, but that it's one of the fluids that's going up the spine. Now, as far as I can tell, these are the light and the dark sides of magic. And we'll start to learn that yoga and Yoda, it's probably a play on words there, but yoga, of course, using the force, keeping his eyes closed, always moving stuff around. The force here, we've got the light side and the dark side. Star Wars is talking about the Kundalini awakening. And the light side or the dark side, the single eye that's full of light or the single eye that is full of darkness. And I think this guy, of course you see the symbology here, but we've got two fingers going down to the moon and two fingers going up to the moon. The sun isn't even present. It's like they want everything, like everything is evil. But then Jesus is with his right hand only pointing up with two fingers. And the two fingers here, I believe, representing two become one. It's that's why it's typically positioned, either at the heart or along the spine here, with the two fingers from the right hand pointing up. The left hand, of course, is not pointing down. And here we've got two fingers positioned along the spine, meaning the two have become one. The serpent has been raised. The crown chakra is active. We can see light emanating from his head. And this, I believe, is the tie between Jesus and Astro-theology, or people saying that Jesus is just sun worship. I say no, but he is using the sun, and that's why Jesus is pointing up with his right hand with two fingers. And maybe, and as far as Astro-theology goes, and Jesus might be hinting at the sun as far as this, referring to that side of the brain. Now, there's stuff that I would like to cover that I just can't, because this topic is too deep and too broad. And as I've been researching this for months, I've been trying to save all the little pieces. The yogi, by concentrating on the prana, becomes light in weight and can walk on water, through marshes, over thorns, and can will his own death at any moment. Well, that doesn't sound very safe, but this might also explain the walking on coals, and how when those tribes get to a certain state, they're able to walk not over thorns in this case, but over coals. This topic is too deep and too broad, and as I've been researching this for months, I've been trying to save all the little pieces that I want to share, and there's just too much to forget. So I will at least go through some of the texts that I have found helpful, and one of them, of course, is The Mysterious Kundalini by Vasant G. Riley. And then he also did an exposition on the Bhagavad Gita, and I found this very helpful. Certainly, other than the reincarnation piece, everything is in line with the Bible. Now, I can argue that the Bible even supports reincarnation, because what is reincarnation? Reincarnation would be a baby being born, and a soul has to be created at that point. Like, a new soul is created every time a baby's born. And then when that person dies, their soul either goes to heaven or hell, and there's no if, and, or buts. There's no reincarnation. The difference would be that a baby could be born and a soul can be sent, a pre-existing soul can be sent into that baby's body. And is that biblical? Well, yes, it is, because God can do that. He did it with Jesus Christ. With Jesus, a baby was born and a pre-existing soul was sent into the baby's body. So does God have the ability to reincarnate? Yes, he did it with Jesus. And it's so to say that he won't do it with anybody else, I don't believe that's biblical. It doesn't say that in the Bible. It does say that a man's given but one life to live. But me, as Ryan Zim, I have one life to live. But what about my soul? Does that mean, my soul might go on to another life? I don't know. It isn't clear in the Bible. What is clear is that God has the ability to reincarnate somebody if he wanted to, because he did it with Jesus. So this Bhagavad Gita in Exposition was a great book. This one was helpful. Underground Christians in the earliest church talks a lot about Gnosticism. And this one, I wish I could translate it. Underground Christians in the earliest church. The Bible and Kundalini energy, the New Testament, deep secrets of the New Testament revealed by Dorothy Elder. Not the best book, but there was some good pieces in there. The Rose Bell Beyond the Da Vinci Code, Fida Hassan. And there seems to be a connection between Fida Hassan and Jesus Christ, but interesting book here. Again, stuff that I really wish I could have gone into in this series, but I can't. Kundalini for Beginners by Kumar Ravadina. Kundalini Vigyan. I can't pronounce all of this. The links are in the description. And through all of this stuff, there's some stuff that I disagree with and feel like not be true. But there's definitely pieces in it that I feel is true. And I feel like these people are truly and honestly trying to seek God. The Kundalini Yoga Experience by Dharma Kalasa. The Awakening of the Kundalini. This is a great one by Gopni Krishna. You've probably heard that name before. So this, man, I can't say really anything bad about what Gopni Krishna had to write. And, he'll even talk about Christ. And at one point in this book, I can't quite pull it up, he basically says that Jesus Christ was the born Son of God, and that it's possible in that situation for somebody to be born, and if they have that seed from God, that they would have a fully active Kundalini basically from birth, and it would never be trapped below like it was ever since Adam and Eve. So, I got nothing but good to say about this book by Gopni Krishna. And this one is more strictly about Hatha Yoga. And, some stuff like this, I salute first Lord Shiva. I'm not on board with that. I salute first Lord Christ Jesus. And that's okay. I don't have to follow this guy's teachings word for word. I can follow what I believe is truth. If you watched the my Bible study on the pineal gland, you probably seen the part with this guy. This is John St. Julian. I really recommend his work. You could tell by the fruit, by his fruit, that he is honestly following God and he's a man of God. And, here he talks about beings of blue light. and I encourage you to check out his channel, check out this video. But he describes seeing beings of blue light, and that in the spirit realm there's something somehow that some people perceive as beings of blue light. So anyways, that was just interesting because Sri Krishna from the Bhagavad Gita is blue as well. So I really think that Sri Krishna is one of these beings of blue light. And I wouldn't discount, the Bhagavad Gita. It deals with a situation that going through, and where the Christian church has failed him, and he's dropped into a life of, the same problems that Arjuna has from the Bhagavad Gita. And the solution is very clear. Christ Jesus taught us how, and he did in this verse right here. Just as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. I have no other interpretation of the Bible and of Jesus' teachings other than that we must lift up the serpent. We must know our 5 trees. And that is the only way that we are going to enter the kingdom of heaven, by denying the flesh and following Christ. I hope this video has been helpful, and I'll be doing everything I can to follow Christ Jesus and live like he did. So I'll see you guys in the mountains.
Jesus Christ was a very powerful, very great prophet, having infinite love for all. He was having great power. He made Lazarus, who was dead, he was raised. We don't believe in this. Then Lord Master did the same thing. Now we believe that it was true. Ram was dead. From many hours his body became tight and stiff. His left body, for example, if today before noon, then tomorrow afternoon, the Ram was raised. Ram was disciple of Lord Master. He did not touch. Lord Master did not come nearby Ram, but from distance he was able to make him alive as he was before. It means it was true. What Jesus Christ did, it was true. When it is said that Jesus Christ, he gave eyes to the blind, how he can do that? The Lord Master did the same. One person was blind from the childhood, and he said that I did not see the light from childhood, I do not know what is the light. And that disciple said, no Master, in you, awakened God is there. Awakened God can do anything. Then it was all right, concentrate on Bhrumadhya. Then his both eyes became completely normal eyes. He was blind from childhood. He got the vision. It means what Jesus Christ did, it was correct. Therefore, truth is revealed all the time. What was in the past, you will find somebody is proving now.
Today we will be doing 2 different breathing techniques. The first one is the Wim Hof breath, which we have been doing in the previous videos. The second breathing technique is known as the breath of fire, and you might experience some heat from this breath, hence the name, and that's completely normal. It's a powerful belly exhale and a passive inhale, like a dog panting. But we will be doing the panting through the nose. The inhale will come naturally after the powerful exhale, and you can place your hand on your stomach to feel the belly moving in on the exhale and passively moving back out on the inhale, like this. And do your best to to relax the rest of your body while we're doing this breathing technique. So relax, get comfortable, follow along to the rhythm of the breath, and I will be here to guide you along between the two different breaths. So, let's start with the Wim Hof in 3, 2, 1. Inhale, exhale, in, out, in through the stomach, up through the chest, out. Very good. In, out. Very good. Get in as much air as you can and let it out. Alright, 2 more. Okay, last one. Breath of fire. Follow the rhythm. Very good. Okay, 2 more. Wim Hof, in, out, in, out. Very good. Keep it up, follow the rhythm. Okay, 4 more. All the way in, let it out. 2 more. Last one fully in, let it out. 1 minute breath hold. Feel your body become heavier and heavier. Allow your eyelids to relax, your jaw to unclench, your arms, your legs. Allow everything to relax. And let the music take you deeper and deeper into this present moment. Ten more seconds. All right, recovery breath in 3, 2, 1. Inhale fully and hold for 15 seconds. All right. Exhale in 3, 2, 1. Fully out. Get ready for round number 2. All right. Wim Hof in 3, 2, 1. Out. In, out, in, out. Very good. Follow the rhythm, follow the breath. Like a wave, in through the stomach, up to the chest. In through the stomach, up through the chest. 4 more, and then breath of fire. Alright, last one. Breath of fire. Follow the rhythm. Exhale from the belly. Relax your body. Alright, last one. Wim Hof. Out. In. Out. Alright, 2 more. Last one fully in. Let it out. 1 minute breath hold. There is nowhere you need to be right now. There's no need for planning, for thinking about the past. Just this blissful state of now. 30 more seconds. And the more that you find yourself in the now, the more you will manifest and achieve the things that you desire. All right, very good. 10 more seconds. We'll take a recovery breath in 4, 3, 2, 1. Fully in. Hold for 15 seconds. All right. Exhale in 3, 2, 1. Fully out. Get ready for round number 3. All right. Wim Hof in 3, 2, 1. In. Very good. 8 more. Okay, 4 more, and then the breath of fire. 2 more. Breath of fire. Follow the rhythm. Okay, last one, Wim Hof. Out, in, out, in, out. Fully in, out. All right, 4 more. 2 more. Last one, bring it all the way in and let it out. Relax. 1 minute breath hold. Breath work is just one part of the equation to feel better. Another is laughter. Learn to laugh at ourselves when we're feeling good, when we're feeling down, when we make mistakes, or when we are just completely lost and don't know what to do. We can always find something to laugh about. 30 more seconds. And just like our breath, laughter is always with us. So find some laughter in your day. And when we laugh at ourselves, it's another way of loving ourselves. 10 more seconds. Recovery breath in 3, 2, 1. Fully in. Hold. Squeeze your pelvic floor and feel the energy move up your spine. 5 more seconds. Exhale in 3, 2, 1. Exhale. Very good. Now I encourage you to take these next few minutes to stay in the state that you are in. Just being in this moment, being with how you feel, and just witnessing. Be sure to subscribe and comment below how your experiences were. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Peace.